Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Crystal Thomas from Brain Balance. So what I'm hearing you say is that we really need to figure out how to balance our brains. We don't want the left hemisphere to go crazy or the right hemisphere to go crazy. There is a difference between boys and girls, isn't there? And then we also have people who are right brain dominant or left brain dominant.
And in the way that because we do have our strengths, right? We have strengths and we have weaknesses.
Yep.
And the litmus test, basically, that I would tell a parent is if your child's strengths or weaknesses start to interfere with their ability to function every day in classroom and learn appropriately, right? They might be a little better in math or a little better, but for the most part, right, we're on track, we're on target. If there aren't any behavior issues at home or at school, but if suddenly you're getting reports from school saying, my child is not in the group anymore, so to speak. So we're not moving in that trajectory of normal development, right? Or if socialization becomes a problem, where making friends becomes problematic, keeping friends, knowing how to get along, things like that. Outside of the norm, right? We all know as parents, like kids go through developmental stages where they will have certain issues, but they should move through them. I mean, that's the point. It's when something gets stuck.
You're in a stage.
Yes.
But yes, okay, so if you just get stuck in that stage.
And listen to the teachers. Teachers are with your children all day long. And, if they're saying, we're concerned, because they're able to really, what they do all day is measure your child's growth against themselves, right? So they'll do assessments throughout the year. If your child is not kind of meeting these little milestones academically on an appropriate way, that can be concerning. But also look for things with your child. If they start having anxiety, I don't want to go to school, I don't like going to school, I hate school, things like that. That's not, most children don't feel that way unless they say there's not enough recess time. I mean, things like that, which I have 4 boys. We hear that a lot, right? Yes. But for the most part, that learning should engage them. There should be something about them that makes it fun. So if your child starts having a lot of anxiety, temper tantrums, really erratic behavior, things like that, or they say, I can't focus, I can't think.
It appears that so much of this is all tied together, that if you're having trouble learning, then you feel bad about yourself.
For sure.
That can also affect the way you act, and you start to act out, and that can affect then your performance in school, and it's kind of a vicious cycle.
Right.
So how does Brain Balance get in there and stop that spiral and get it going the other way?
Well, and the first step is to really determine what are we dealing with, right? Are we dealing with a left or a right brain issue? And so our assessment is really critical in helping to understand that, because we measure both sides of the brain through very specific tests through the visual system. We want to see how well the child's eyes work together in tandem, because believe it or not, critical part of being able to read, take information from that smartboard to the paper, the eye muscles have to be working together. Our visual processing, we're going to look, does this child have a slow visual processing? Does their brain not take in visual information fast enough, rapidly enough that they can keep up in the classroom? We look at auditory processing. Okay, we have a timing and rhythm to how our hearing works. So, not just perception, do they hear the sounds used in speech, but, do they process language coherently through both ears? And is that timing together? We have a lot of kids with dyslexia, really, where their auditory processing is very off. So their hearing, if we send 2 different words coming in simultaneously through each ear, a lot of these kids will blend the words.
Really?
So they almost hear, right,
because you think
it's a
of
timing
dyslexia
mechanism.
as an eye issue.
Right.
But you're saying it can
Dyslexia
even
is
be
a left-
auditory.
It's a left brain
It's a left brain issue.
That
What kinds of-
certainly can be linked to the eyes and to the ears and to lots of other areas.
Well, I know
too.
adults who went through school struggled all through school, and they say, well, I'm dyslexic. What do you do? Are there some exercises that you can do to help these people?
Well, yeah, first of all, I would tell anyone to go get the book Disconnected Kids. And the second edition has come out because he puts out a whole home program there. So when we say, we don't work with kids beyond the age of 18, but there are adults that can really, if they've had dyslexia or ADHD their whole life. Dr. Melillo, in this book, it's like a gift he's given to us. He said, okay, here are some things that you can do to assess yourself, and these are some things you can do at home to help build function and build strength in some of these other areas. So it doesn't replace what we do in the center. The center is very, very intensive, but it is a great starting point, and we have parents who've worked from the book who have great success.
So you're seeing success in children who have dyslexia and academic succsse.
Okay. I will never forget, talking about going back in my mind and revisiting all of these children. So there was a little girl we were working with, could not read. Okay, she's in elementary school, could not read. And even though she was a very social child, right, she loved being around people, it started to affect her. She didn't want to go out to dinner with friends because she couldn't read the menu. So she was embarrassed to be able to tell the parents of the child she was with that she really couldn't read it, right? And so here you have this just amazing little girl who is starting to really shut down and have a lot of self-esteem issues. Well, as she's going through the program, her mom came in one day and her mom's in tears. And I'm thinking, okay, what's going on? Come on in. Because we have tears of joy. We have tears of struggle. We help these parents through everything. And she said, no, it's amazing. She said, we were driving down the street and she started reading like street signs and billboards. And she said, oh my God. And it just started to come together for her. Yeah. And a year later, we got an email from this mother who said her daughter had, all A's and was chosen like student of the year or something. This was a year out. So it's amazing. Yeah.
You must see a lot of tears, I'm guessing, and happy tears.
Yes.
What other success stories can you share with us?
Oh, gosh, I'm trying to think. There's so many.
Yes.
Well, first of all, that one boy I was just talking about, this teenager, because a lot of parents will say, is it too late for my child? When they come in with their teenager, is it too late? Well, first of all, understanding neuroplasticity of the brain continues to grow and change for the course of our life. So
it's never too late.
It's never too late. So always we can do things. The key is introducing new things. But we'll come back some other day and talk about that. But this young man who had everything going for him, but again, had so much anxiety. A lot of kids with a left brain issue have a lot of test anxiety. So he had a lot of anxiety going into this ACT. And he ended up finishing it. He was partway through his first term, got through it, and I think he had a 17 or an 18, okay? So we said, okay, well, he finished it. They came in. So he had been out of the program for a couple months, sat for the test again, came in, he had a 25.
No way.
Yeah. Right. So
on
this
the
is
ACT.
Right. And so that's a huge jump in a matter of like 4 months or whatever.
Begin at 25.
Right.
Yes, they can get good scholarships.
And this was not a child who was doing ACT prep.
Wow.
This was a child who would just simply, we were able to get his brain processing at a faster speed, which built his confidence and his ability to get through this information fast enough on this test. Because for so many of these kids, and what I tell parents, it's in there. It is all in there. We see it with kids with autism, where it is incredible what these children know. But we see it with kids, all across. We don't just work with kids of autism. I met someone the other day and they said, oh, so you're not just for autistic kids. I said, oh, no. I said, we can help kids. I would say 60% of our kids don't have a diagnosis. They come in, they've just been struggling. So, ADHD, ADD, dyslexia, as far as I'm concerned, those are just the names we give this functional disconnect that's happening.
So there's no reason to just say, okay, we got it. We got a CD student. That's what we got here.
Nope.
Maybe you'll have of course you have other gifts, but every child can perform better academically once you just figure out the balance.
Right. Because one of the things, to understand is if there are areas of the brain that are firing and processing information at a certain speed, why can't everything be that?
What a good attitude about it.
And, my son's a perfect example. I mean, Louis, there were some specialists that said, well, we don't know if he'll ever talk. We don't know if he'll ever ride a bike. We don't know. And I thought, and at one point we had his brain scanned and we have the CT of his brain. And I had this neurosurgeon say to me, that is one fine looking brain. And I thought, that's great. So there's nothing structurally wrong here.
Right.
So it has to be, we have to figure out what it is. It must be a connectivity issue. It must have something to do with the way the areas of his brain are communicating. And when I really started to delve into that and figure it out, I realized that in order for us to make the change we needed to do, going once a week for 20 minutes of some sort of intervention wasn't going to be intense enough, and that's another thing. Parents, bring their children to Brain Balance 3 times a week for an hour.
Wow.
Every other day.
Yeah.
And, understanding how to change that brain and build new patterns and build networks, you have to apply, that stimulation.
And are there some things that then they can take home and do at home?
Oh, yes. We give them a home program for sure. Because our job is to make the greatest change in the shortest period of time, right? Because once that parent realizes, oh my gosh, you can help me. Oh my gosh, they all go, I wish I had found this years ago. And I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. We have
found
time
it now.
Yeah, we're good.
Yes.
But, if they do the home program, if they follow the nutrition, the results are going to be amazing. When I moved to Georgia to put Louie in this program, I looked at them and I said, you tell me what to feed him. You tell me what not to feed him. Tell me what to have him do when he's not here, what activities he should be. You know what I mean? I wanted someone to empower me as a mom.
What about sleep? I am reading more and more about how our brain heals during sleep. How important is sleeping for children?
It's critical. I mean, we talked about this before we went on the air. I have a 17-year-old, 15-year-old, 14-year-old, and 11-year-old, right? And they're all boys.
God bless you.
And it is lights out. It is lights out at 9, even for my 17-year-old.
Yeah.
They need that sleep. They are up and going, before 6 a.m. in the morning, and they're athletes and they're busy. They need a ton of sleep. And the other thing I will tell you is that, my children don't play video games during the week. We don't have, it is a no gaming house Monday through Friday.
It's very unusual.
It is, but you have to make those, it is so important. And my older kids will sometimes grumble and they'll say, what does it really matter? And I said, you will thank me someday.
Yeah, and they will.
You will thank me someday. I said, because you can't, it's no good for you. And then on the weekends, what we try to do is keep them really busy so that, when they're allowed to be playing, they're not home.
I think they would lose interest in that because it's just not as much fun to be sitting on a couch pretending something as it is to go outside and do it.
But no, these games are
virtual basketball one time. Yeah. And my kids even said virtual basketball, we could go outside and play actual basketball.
No, but these video games are designed. There's a reward system. They release a lot of dopamine when the children are playing them. They're highly addictive. I have posted lots of articles about that on Facebook. And, do your own research as parents because it is, we know video games are actually changing brain development. It is changing the way brain. Right. And so they are highly addictive,
Crystal Thomas. All right, everybody, you need to come back.
I know.
Again,
we'll talk about video games on a whole separate.
Much more to cover. How do people reach you? Because you can help a lot of people.
So our phone number at the center is 330-617-4550. You can go to our website, brainbalancecanton.com. There's so much information on there, so spend a lot of time perusing through that. We're also on Hills and Dales Road, right across from Avondale School. It's 4207 Hills and Dales Road, so pop in and visit. We'll give you a tour. You can meet with one of the directors. Any way we can help.
It's Brain Balance. Crystal Thomas, thanks for everything you're doing in our community.
Thanks for having me.